This is Honors Geometry Lesson 1.5 Example Problems. We learned that complementary angles have a sum of 90 degrees. So we're given that the measure of angle 1 is 43 degrees. The question is, what would the measure of angle 2 be? So I just take 90 minus 43, and I can see that the measure of angle 2 would be 47 degrees. We know that supplementary means that two angles have a sum of 180. So if we know that the measure of angle 1 is 60, if we take 180 minus 60, we would know that the measure of angle 2 must be 120 degrees. Let's try a linear pair. We learned that a linear pair of angles are two angles that share a common side. They're adjacent angles, and their non-common sides are opposite rays, so they form a straight line. A linear pair has a sum of 180. So I'm going to go ahead and just add those together, set them equal to 180, and see what we get. So we get 18x minus 9 plus 4x plus 13 has to equal 180. Combine our like terms, we get 22x minus 9 plus 13 gives us plus 4 equals 180. Subtract 4, we get 22x is 176, which would mean that x has a value of 8. The question they're asking is, what's the measure of the two angles? So let's go ahead and substitute it back in. So I'm going to take 18 times 8 and subtract 9. I'll use a calculator for that. 18 times 8 minus 9 would give us an angle of 135 degrees. We know that the two together have to equal 180, so that would mean our other angle is 180 degrees minus 135, or 45 degrees. But just to make sure, let's go ahead and substitute it back in. So we're going to take 4 times 8, I'm getting that from right here, plus 13, 4 times 8 is 32, plus 13, boom, there's that 45 we were talking about. So we would say that the measure of angle DEG equals 135, and we would say that the measure of angle GEF equals 45 degrees. Now they're going to ask us, are the angles vertical angles, a linear pair angles, or neither? Remember, vertical angles are across from each other in an X. A linear pair are side by side to make a straight line, or maybe it's neither of those two things. So the first one we're looking at is angle 1, that's right here, and angle 4, that's right here. They're across from each other in an X. You can see that telltale V, so I know those are vertical angles. The second set of angles they want us to look at are angles 1 and 2, right here, angle 1, angle 2. You could see they're side by side, they form a straight line, so we would say they're a linear pair of angles. Next one they're asking about are angles 3 and 5, right here, 3 and 5. You can see they're neither vertical nor linear pair of angles, so we would just give them an N for neither. Let's try a little algebra. We're looking for the values of x and y, so we're going to have two sets of equations here. First thing I'm going to do is start with the x's. You can see that we have a linear pair of angles with the x. We know that a linear pair is supplementary, so we're going to say that 9x plus 20 plus 7x we know has to equal 180 degrees. 16x plus 20 equals 180. 16x equals 160, so we know x is 10. And this time we don't have to substitute it back in, they just want the value of x. To find the value of y, we have a couple choices. We can use this linear pair here. Now that we know what x is, we could substitute the x 10 in for x, find out what that angle is, and subtract it from 180. A little bit easier way, in my opinion, would be to use the vertical angles. You could see we have vertical angles here. And vertical angles are congruent. When they're across from each other, they have the same measure. So now that we know x is 10 degrees, I would say that 7 times 10 would give us an angle of 70 degrees. So I know this angle is 70 degrees, which means this angle is also 70 degrees. And so to solve for y, we would just say 2y equals 70, therefore y is 35. Let's go back to complementary and supplementary. We're just throwing a little algebra in here. We're told that these angles are complementary, so I know that means 90. So I'm going to say that 3x plus 2 plus x minus 4 has to be 90 degrees. Combine our like terms. Let's add 2 to both sides. We get 4x equals 92. We're going to take 92 divided by 4. That's going to give us 23, so x is 23. And they do want the measure of the angle, so I'm going to go ahead and substitute that back in. 3 times 23 plus 2. 3 times 23 plus 2 is going to give me 71. If we did it correctly, then the other angle must be 19 degrees. Well, let's check that out. So we'll say that the measure of angle A is 71 degrees. So we know x is 23, so the measure of angle B would be 23 minus 4, or 19 degrees, and you can see that together those two add up to 90. Let's try one more, but this time they're supplementary. So we know we're going to add them together, set them equal to 180. So we get 8x plus 100 plus 2x plus 50 equals 180. Combine our like terms, you get 10x plus 150 equals 180. Subtract 150 from each side, we get 10x equals 30, therefore x equals 3. And let's go ahead and substitute it back in and find the measure of A and B. So we have 8 times 3 plus 100, and we have 2 times 3 plus 50. That's 24 plus 100, or 124. That's 6 plus 50, or 56. And if we did it correctly, it should add up to the 180 we're looking for. Looks good. Go ahead and try the practice problems. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.